have a lot of villages around your Minecraft world, you may consider connecting these villages together in a larger sphere, a multi-village culture. If so, you'll need some strategies to define these culture spheres. Around your world, you've likely come across many villages, perhaps even of the same type. I know I've found a lot of plains villages. Each are more shocking than the last because what possesses villagers to build up such steep slopes and make such bizarre villages? Regardless, it's truthfully not as exciting if you've just left these villages as disconnected from each other as possible. If you're looking for simplicity, you may want to make all villages of a certain type a distinct culture. This makes sense. Each of these different villages have different outfits, and they, of course, have vastly different architecture styles. And by doing this, certain culture sizes will vary naturally with your Minecraft world, whether you uncover more villages or decide to build some yourself to expand a certain culture. This can be great from another standpoint. Some villages of the same type may be far from each other, and you'll need to consider how that happened naturally. Was it a colonial outpost, perhaps? Maybe it was just a standard outpost. Or maybe the culture was much larger at some point, and something happened to make the culture a lot smaller now and disconnected. These are things you want to consider. And kind of expanding on that, that means that if you're finding villages that have multiple outfits, and this is actually pretty common in Minecraft, you might find a plains village on a barrier between maybe a what's another kind of rare biome type? Maybe not so rare, but a windswept hill, for example, will generate taiga villagers with taiga outfits. So it's pretty likely that you've found at least one village in your Minecraft world that has multiple outfits. Well, that kind of makes it multicultural. And you can ask yourself, is, well, this a point where cultures blend? So, for example, if you already have multiple taiga villages and you have multiple plains villages, and then you find this village that's kind of a combination, you might find that this spot is maybe, well, where the cultures meet and have a cultural exchange here. Or potentially, maybe one of the outfits is actually refugees from another culture resettling somewhere new. Why they did that is up to you. And these are the questions you might want to ask yourself when deciding the best way to incorporate villages into cultural spheres, giving yourself the best opportunity to make these villages more interesting than just being standalone single villages that are disconnected from everything else. But truthfully, I really don't consider outfits and just this plain specific architecture style that's generated by Minecraft for villages to be distinct enough to define cultures. I mean, you're not going to wear parkas in a desert, and no sandals probably in a grove biome. Though, honestly, considering leather boots, maybe, well, never mind. Regardless, what you should really consider is specific design patterns or structures unique to one area. For example, in my Minecraft world, the Kyberan culture emphasizes copper roofs and builds made of copper more than really anywhere else in the world. And one of my other kingdoms, Kolucky, is the only kingdom in my world with dense triple floor housing. And it's basically inspired by the double floor housing from Plains Villages. So it extends that style, but at the same time makes it something unique. And Wolfox, I don't know why I almost butchered my own kingdom, Wolfox has some Tudor style buildings with these specific motifs, and it just distinguishes these specific culture spheres from each other. It also might serve the purpose of, for example, Wolfox and Kolucky are actually part of the same culture sphere, but that doesn't mean that culture has to be super locked in place. It's really just kind of like a more, I don't want to say a vibe, but that's kind of a, in Minecraft, I think that's kind of what we're going for. When you're building with specific cultural elements that you want to incorporate across your Minecraft world, you can vary that. And I want to make sure that you're not just, it's not the best if you're just copying the same structure over and over again in your Minecraft world. For example, one of my most common structures that I build across my Minecraft world, I like to call it a safe house. It's basically just beds and a chest and a place to smelt some stuff. But it is the most common structure in my Minecraft world. Well, I don't know if that's quite right. It's the most common one that I've built and set out to build a ton of anyway. But the idea with it is that even when I build it in different parts of the world, I try to vary its style so that you can clearly recognize what it is, but it's not always looking the exact same across the Minecraft world. For example, there are spots in my world where I do have a safe house that is very specifically distinct than other safe houses around the world because I wanted it done that way. And something else you may want to consider when defining cultures across your Minecraft world, that's something that I really want to get into a little bit more and is leading a bit more into the world building aspect of your Minecraft world, is, well, naming these cultures and looking at geographic influence around your world. So, for example, the Kyberan culture that I brought up earlier, Kyberan is kind of like a fusion of, I can't remember the exact separated words, but I know that it roughly translates to King Reign or something like that. And the idea of the Kyberan culture is that its main focal point, which is Kyber Ridge, is well, it's seated right above like a massive ravine. Like it looks like that village is ready to be swallowed up anytime. And actually, I have distinguished some ruins in the more southern tier of the village that clear towards the trail ruin that clearly articulate to you that, of course, this village had been destroyed in the past. And the idea here is by calling it the King Rain culture, what I've set up is that essentially that ravine is a sinkhole. It's a really big sinkhole that was caused by rains. Makes sense. It's, like it could just be some sort of different rock that eroded a lot faster, and the whole village basically sunk. And the idea there is that by using the geography of the surrounding village, I can actually tell the story of that village. And I also did the same thing with the trail ruin that I also excavated. And I think this is the best way to naturally incorporate storytelling in your Minecraft world, is to just add stories that are the things that you do in your Minecraft world. So, for example, when I was excavating that trail ruin, because it also sits basically right above a ravine, there's a lot of suspicious gravel that I wasn't able to recover and fully excavate. And that's kind of unfortunate because it means I wasn't able to tell as much of a story with the culture as maybe I wanted to. But it was actually okay because I realized by doing that it was actually okay because I could use that as a story point. So, for example, because I wasn't able to salvage all of the culture's resources, it made that destruction by a sinkhole feel that much more realistic because there was even less to save of the old ruins of that culture. So clearly it had deteriorated over time, and using these geographic influences really helped me distinguish that culture as something unique. And something that's leaning a bit more into that too is the Atatori culture, which is the most predominant culture. In my Minecraft world, Atatori in this case just means wheat gate. And it's also a combination, I think, of multiple languages. But the idea here is that wheat gate is just a simple stepping stone into what this was the first culture I decided to distinguish in my Minecraft world. At the time, I was taking an art history course, so I was thinking, if I'm going to add history to my Minecraft world, building, like excavating a site and building some sort of, sculptures or anything that I could get will help me distinguish this culture. So I call it the Atatori just because I thought it sounded kind of cool, honestly. But the idea with that culture that I wanted to really bring up and how I distinguished it is that the Atatori are separated in two spheres. There's more of a northern culture and there's more of a southern culture. And the idea is that when I first started this Minecraft world, we actually sailed across the ocean from our world spawn just to explore the world. And that's when my friend, who was also playing at the time, discovered the two villages that would eventually become Wolfox and Kalucky. And because of that exploration across the ocean, I made sure I incorporated that in my culture's lore. Of course, that the Atatori at some point had some sort of disaster that caused a substantial amount of that culture to move southward, thus colonizing two new kingdoms, which would eventually become the more predominant spots than the original Adator, which is the village that is closest to the world spawn, and also the originator of the culture, but maybe not doing so well. But the idea here is that if you can take these Minecraft villages across your world and incorporate them into larger spheres, I think you're going to have a lot more potential in world building your Minecraft world and adding natural storytelling. Because whether you're seeking out to add specific stories to these villages because that's what you want to do, or you're looking to just incorporate the things that you've already done in your Minecraft world to tell the story of these villages a little bit more, I think there's a lot of ways that you can use what the game has already given to you and incorporate them on a larger scale. And I know people love building mega projects, your mega base, or whatever you're working on. So if you're thinking about starting your next mega project, why not think about incorporating a couple of villages across your Minecraft world into a larger cultural sphere that will allow you to delineate its specific style, allowing you to build more things that are maybe a little bit more unique and exotic. For example, maybe someone might ask you to build a specific architectural style for them, and that's what happened in the case of one of my villages. Moose Bay is the name of the village, and because of that, I incorporated a lot of copper and and some other blocks that I may not normally build with. And I'm happy that I did that because it's such a more unique village than any of the other ones I built because it has a unique style to it. So if you're doing these things across your Minecraft world, I think you'll just find yourself having a lot more fun because you can be a lot more creative with these villages if you want to make more unique culture zones that maybe don't necessarily align with maybe the most specific way you'd build. You have an opportunity here to build some more exotic structures across your Minecraft world than perhaps you may. And by connecting all of these spheres together, you just give yourself more opportunities to work on projects across your world, connecting it more, and, well, playing some more Minecraft to get more of your world developed and add some more lore to it.